welcome everyone to Dissolving the Divide. Very happy to be here for another show. We got Derek Barlicelli over there in Europe and our friend Theo all the way in Thailand. So we are representing the world right now. So it's exciting in a way, right? A few little corners of the world. So Derek, yeah, why don't you introduce Theo? You guys know each other, collaborate?
Yeah, definitely. And it's great to have Theo in the mix with this Europa Natural Law group, doing weekly videos at this point with Nemo Jones spearheading that project, collective group, whatever. And it's been great. And just getting more folks on the international scene. Yeah, it's a great thing. But yeah, great special guest, a good friend, Theo Lux, and the one who spearheaded a website that I'm a part of in regards to nattylaw.com. And we'll definitely get into that a little bit. And we're going to hear about your journey to kind of out of the shadows and into the lights. And it's pretty luminescent over there, brother. How you doing, Theo?
Yeah, good morning for me in Thailand, up in the mountains in a beautiful Chinese village here. And yeah, so what can I say? It's a long story, like how I reached the point of learning about natural law, and of course, eventually realizing I must also teach it. I cannot just learn it. I cannot just acquire knowledge and then keep it for myself. I must spread that knowledge forward. Give the gift of knowledge back to the world. So, you know, I guess you guys already know a little bit of my story, but I don't know where should I start when it comes to my life story. Um, well, I guess I could start, in childhood. Growing up in Israel, I could see that that it's kind of like a bit of a harsh culture. Like I had in school, I had many bullies. Many kids kind of not really tapped into that heart intelligence or anything like that, and uh, it can be very harsh. It's also very multicultural. There are people from all over the world in Israel because Israel is kind of like labeled as like a Jewish ethnicity country. It's not like a country like most countries where it's based on like you were born in that land, so you inherit this land, and your children will, and all that. But Israel has something called aliyah, where if you can prove that your mother is Jewish, I think, or maybe they require both mother and father. I'm not sure what the rules are. Excuse me. But apparently, yeah, if you can prove you're Jewish, however rules it works for them, you can get an Israeli passport.
Huh.
So,
Do you mind if I throw something in there and then I'll ask a
yeah,
question too? Because even my ex-wife's best friend worked at the like in the French diplomacy, foreign relations in the French embassy in Tel Aviv. And actually, he was telling me at the time, geez, this was 2016, 15, that like Israel seemed to be struggling on, getting populating the country as they're looking to do. And like out in France, they're kind of recruiting to a degree, any Jewish lineage people and all that. And my friend even told me that French people moving there, it's not always easy to integrate, and there's been people that move back to France and this and that. And all that aside, where in Israel did you grow up? I guess.
grew up in Ashkelon. It's pretty close to Gaza, actually.
Oh, dang.
So definitely an interesting place to grow up in. I mean, it's a beautiful city overall, especially when I was young. It was pretty beautiful. It's quite green. It's got the sea or the Mediterranean Sea. It's got a beautiful like a beach and all that. and also a national park. It's got a national park with like really nice Roman uh, um, archaeology and stuff like that from Roman times. And yeah, it's a beautiful place, but all my life there was always the risk of war because it's close to Gaza, so we would have rockets falling on us, sirens, rockets. I experienced quite a few wars during my childhood and then later also. Um, and yeah. So also, in regards to your question, uh, I think there was certain periods where Israel was trying to, populate its country. They were giving passports more easily to like people that even, let's say, maybe just their grandmother or grandfather are Jewish. Like they already think, okay, it's good enough to do the aliyah to give them a passport. I think my mother is actually one of those people that who was brought from Russia from after the communist period. Many when the communism ended in Russia, many people there were really poor and they were looking maybe to immigrate to other countries. So the Israel had a program where they would, give Russian nationals passports to Israel if they can, if they have at least some Jewish in their heritage or in their in their ancestry. So it's a very interesting country in many ways, and the more I learn about it, the more it's like becomes sketchy, like the whole propaganda inside the country about what the country is about, because the country is claiming to be about being like a safe place for Jewish people, the promised land for Jewish people, right? Like our historical land. And but I'm actually cannot be really considered Jewish according to most Jewish people in Israel because my mother is not Jewish; she is from Russia. So um, I can't even really call myself Jewish, but my father is apparently. Anyway, the whole idea of like who is Jewish, what is Jewish, that's all of that is also really sketchy once you really learn the full history and all the details. So I guess
Were
what I
you
can say is yeah, you go.
were
Yeah.
you bullied, by the way, because of that? Like, I mean, this works in both, ends of the polarization of, oh, you're not Jewish enough, or oh, you're too Jewish, and this and this. Like, what does that even serve, right?
Yeah, there's
That's for like
definitely some.
anything, right? For a lot of things.
It's definitely I noticed like the more like let's say more native Israeli, more like how to say uh, well it's hard to explain this, but it's kind of like the people who are more obviously Israeli as opposed to the more obviously European based Jewish people maybe. Which I guess I can be like one of them, which they call us like Ashkenazis. They call it Ashkenazi. Uh, so like usually the more Middle Eastern type of Jewish people will bully the Ashkenazi, the more European ones. Um, but sometimes it can be the other way around. I guess it depends. But like for me, it was like that. And yeah, I couldn't really relate to that culture. I felt like more European than this Middle Eastern style, which is very different culture. The whole Semitic and non-Semitic, that's another can of worms. But it was an interesting time to grow up in Israel. I don't know how it is today, like with all the latest, all welcoming. Everyone can change the genders, everyone can do that, and like everything is accepted these days. So I don't know how it is to grow up in Israel now. I guess it's very different. But at that time, it was still quite more traditional. Like still like being gay at that time was very forbidden in many ways. I know it's pretty religious country.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, the fact that it's a religious country also like you get to see all kinds of different kinds of religious people, right? There's like
Mm.
there's the like Haredi in Hebrew. It's called a Haredi, which are the ones who wear the black, all black, and the black hat and all that. I never really got to meet those people in any real way, but of course I got to see them in many ways, and yeah, always was intrigued by them. I was always thinking like, isn't it hot to like walk in a full summer day with like all the black clothes, like they will never take them off. It's always wearing all black all the way. And it's like I was looking at them at like a full summer day. It's like it can get up to 40 degrees Celsius in Israel. It's like, damn, they are really dedicated to this. But
How
yeah,
old were you when you left Israel?
Well, when I left the military, which I'll get to later, I was, I think, about 20.
Okay. Now, is Israel the only nation on the planet that is identified by its religion or, religious identity?
Right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is that
Mhm.
it's pretty much, yes, it's very much unique in that it's kind of identified by religion rather than a land, really. Even
Yeah.
though it's claiming that, yeah, this is our historical land, but yeah, once you really dive into it, there is no real proof that there is any real base for that. Of course, they will claim otherwise, but from my research, it's very sketchy territory, um, and like I like to go into the more esoteric areas and stuff like that, and I like the idea that Israel is kind of like the the coming together of all the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. So Is, the goddess, Ra, the god, and El also, I guess, can be one of the gods as well. So uh, it's like Israel is kind of like a state of mind. It's kind of like you bring the mother, the father, and the child together, right? Like the it's like the triad, right? It's yeah, I feel like it's more like a state of mind, and the Holy Land. I feel like that's the body. The Holy Land is the body. Israel is like a state of mind where you bring all your, yeah, the three things: the heart, the mind, and the soul. Right, the heart, the mind, the soul, the spirit, the mind, the body. Um, I feel like that's where it came from. Just like also Solomon's temple. Like I was researching a lot of Nate Cap and those people, and like they talk about Solomon's temple. It's like Sol or Mon, so it's like the sun, Sol, and Mon, the moon, and O is like you in the middle. So it's like balancing the brain hemispheres, right? So uh, so if you have the Solomon's temple in your mind, so you bring your sun and your moon, your left and your right hemispheres together, it's also like the Israel. It's like having also the goddess, the god, and the child together inside your own mind. And then the Holy Land is your body. So you treat your body as your holy land, right? You don't abuse your body, you don't mistreat it. I feel like that's the true Israel. So in a way, it is like a religion, but it's like in the way I describe it, it can be like a positive religion. It can be like a spirituality. So that maybe is the true version from my yeah very long research that I came up with is maybe that's the true way to look at it, that yeah, everyone can become like this, everyone can reach this trinity. That's the word I was looking for, not triad, trinity. Everyone can reach the trinity, everyone can treat their body as the holy land, and treat other people with respect, with the golden rule, which is also used to be a big thing in Jewish spirituality. So I think the Jewish spirituality came from a good place, but it, just like everything, it got corrupted. And yeah, one of the reasons why Israel is claiming that they can do what they do now, like with all the wars and taking over other people's land and all that, is because of what happened to Jewish people in World War II, which is a huge atrocity. And yeah, obviously we get taught about that from very early on in school, and like we have a whole class about what happened to Jewish people in World War II. And I don't dismiss it whatsoever. And of course, it was a terrible genocide and torture and experimentation on them and all that what they did in Nazi Germany. But now what you see what Israel is doing to other cultures, right? To their neighbors, they're doing basically the same thing. They're also genociding people from what I've seen. So it's kind of like the abused become the abuser and stuff like that, which is very unfortunate. It's very sad to see. And I've been talking to Israeli people about it, and maybe some of them have a hard time like accepting it because the propaganda in Israel is so strong. But yeah, it's all politics. It's kind of like Jordan Maxwell says, it's all business. It's not about spirituality. It's about, oh, this is my land because of this reason, and like we are the chosen people because of this religion, and like because of this book, and like how many times did your book get corrupted? How many times your history was rewritten by other you know conquerors and whatever. So I kind of really started to question everything. Maybe not as much as I do now, like back in the day when I was approaching the time of military service. But at that time, I was just kind of more leaning towards just having the basic questions like, why you gotta force me into something that I don't want to participate in. I was a pacifist. I was also um, like trying to do the process where you can actually claim to be a pacifist officially to the military in order to not need to serve. Supposedly, like they have like on paper that they would do that. They would like support pacifists or whatever, like allow them to not serve. So I did the whole process. I like had to go to an attorney, have like an official statement regarding it, send it to them, then go to interviews, then go to roundtables with like high commanders and stuff like that. And yeah, at the end they just called me and said, no, you have to go serve. So I don't know. Like some people say, maybe if you like don't don't go serve anyway, they will like leave you alone or something like that. I don't know, but at the time I was scared because I was threatened with jail if I would not go to serve. So I was too scared of that at that time. So I go to in the day of service. I go the day of recruitment, and yeah, I just realize how bad it is there. Like, first of all, most people that go to the military don't want to be there. Like I thought that people who like, I always had a feeling people really are patriotic. They're really passionate about defending Israel and the Jewish people and all that. And but what I see is most people were like, just most kids are in the military. Most of those 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they don't want to be there. They're just like dragging themselves along to be there. There was no passion or almost anywhere. So considering I really didn't want to be there, it's like for me it was very disempowering to take to take part in something that is so like um kind of lame. It's like a lame thing. The commanders, they are like basically kids, just a little bit older than the recruited soldiers, and they just like to play the power card and like yell at everyone, and play control games. So like I could see it, like I always had this higher awareness than I guess most people. And yeah, many kids would just go to the doctor, pretend to be sick to get the ability to not have to do the whatever tasks and all that. Like everyone would try to cheat the system. Like I was pretty shocked how ridiculous it is.
Well, yeah,
But
I'm
people are
surprised
just going
actually.
along with it.
Sorry,
Yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say, I'm actually surprised to hear that, and it's in a good way that folks weren't really, because yeah, it's like counterintuitive to get into this drill camp military complex type of thing. And I don't know if you saw the movie Full Metal Jacket, but that does a pretty good job of displaying how these drill sergeants and commanders and stuff, they really put people through the ringer and break them down so that they're
Yeah,
moldable into their formation, whatever.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure they do that.
I just wanted to highlight all the moral relativity that, is existing in this whole thing you've been describing, right? That there's really no basis of moral behavior other than sort of a story that's being believed, and used to justify all of this coercion and so forth. But yeah, go on with your story. It's very interesting.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, what ended up happening is, at first, I had I had a background, like I joined the military after actually having like been educated, which again, the whole education system in Israel, high school and college, I guess, it's basically to prepare you for like a good military job. Everything is based around the military. So I at the same time I was tracked. I was like, like assigned, the same thing. Obviously, my parents didn't know any better. I was not in any private school or anything. So in high school, I learned software engineering, which at the time I thought it's okay because I was passionate about computers. I was always really like video games, stuff like that. I thought learning how to program, it's kind of cool. So I learned that in high school, and then there was a program where I could like do like a 13 year of like high school to continue learning software programming in like a college. So I did that, and that was supposed to like give me a good job in the military where I get to do something that is more leaning towards what I like to do. I guess related to computer, to engineering, to programming. But when I was there, I had to take another course inside the military, and it already was not so much programming. It was like to, I guess, be a technician of like communication devices, like walkie-talkie, those things. And I did the whole course, and I passed the course. And then after the course, they do a security examination. So they don't do it before the course, which even if you pass the course successfully, if you fail the security examination, they don't let you do the job anyway. So it's like, why don't you do it before the course, not after? So I finished the course successfully. I do this security examination, and I failed it, right? Like I didn't pass the security check for whatever reason. Maybe it's related to the fact that I didn't want to serve at all. I told them I'm a pacifist. I don't want to be here, basically. So yeah, I guess it's not surprising. Uh, so yeah, so I didn't pass it. So they ended up pushing me to like the lowest job they could push me into, which was to be like a car mechanic, which I really didn't want to do that. It's like very hard work and really not my type of work. So and the other thing is the commander that was I was assigned to was like the biggest asshole you could ever imagine, like the classic like asshole military commander archetype. He was that. He was just fucking rude and like harsh and like abusive. So yeah, having to deal with this guy for a couple of months, it got to me too bad. And like in general, the whole vibes there, like I told you, it just totally ridiculous system and operation and everything. It's just really mind-boggling. So I just couldn't take it anymore. I was threatened because I couldn't just serve normally. Like I would start misbehaving a little bit. So they threatened me with jail. So I was really scared of jail at the time. So I just one day I was like, okay, I can't take it anymore. I just bought a flight ticket and flew out.
How did you get out without them catching you?
Yeah. So apparently the military, even though it's a big part of the whole Israel system, apparently it's not directly tied, or at least not very directly, that they can catch me in the airport. Or the airport is like its own entity. that of course has relations with the military, but it's not part of the military. So yeah, the airport, maybe they can be notified that maybe I'm like this, yeah, like escapee or whatever it's called, at some point. But if I do it quickly enough, I did some research before that, right? Apparently, if I do it quickly enough, they don't get any notifications, so there's no problem. So I knew it will be safe enough.
Where did you go?
So I just took whatever cheap, easy flight ticket I could find, which was at the time to Serbia. It's only like 2 hours away from Israel. So I started there, and I was kind of researching. I was very hopeful. I was thinking maybe I can figure out a way to stay abroad and not have to ever go back to Israel by the whole thing of like doing internet business and freelancing. It was in 2017, so during those days it was very trendy to get into the whole internet entrepreneurship and businesses, and Bitcoin was that year had like one of its highest highs and stuff like that. So I was learning about Bitcoin, and there was like the whole trend of digital nomads. I don't know if you heard about that, where people can make enough money online that they can just live like a nomad but work online, right? So they can live anywhere and sustain themselves just by having a online freelance job or online business, a website or anything like that. So I was very hopeful that I can become successful in that and not have to go back to Israel and kind of let that whole life, that sad life behind, right? Leave it behind and start a new life. And yeah, I was trying that. I created a couple websites. I made a little bit of money. I traded Bitcoin. I did all those things, and yeah, but I was still very young, very naive, and so I couldn't really, let's say, reach a big success. And I was caught up with all kinds of things, like traveling. I was still not very experienced in traveling, and later I ended up meeting people, meeting like girlfriends and stuff like that. So I had distractions, right? So it's I, I didn't reach, let's say, the goal that I started with to become a super successful, digital businessman, whatever. But I had an amazing journey traveling to, I think, about 15 countries in total, and it went pretty well for the most part until COVID happened, right? The COVID nonsense, and when it started, I was actually in China. I was actually in China just when it's really the very beginning of it, and yeah, at the time I had also a lady friend in China, and she was kind of telling me about it. She's like, "Oh, there's a virus," but I didn't make much of it. I was not scared of those things, and like it's not the first time that she told me, "Oh, there's like a virus pandemic in China." I think they were kind of prepping it beforehand. Like they were experimenting to try to blow up a pandemic. So like a few months before that, she told me, "Oh, there's like a pandemic in this place in China." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then yeah, when the COVID started to yeah blow up, she told me, "Oh, again, there's a pandemic somewhere in China." I was like, "Okay, whatever." But then it's blowing up and blowing up, and then suddenly I start to see articles about it in like international websites and stuff like that. It's like, oh, this seems to be blowing up a little bit, but still, for me, it's like whatever. Like I'm not so concerned about that. I was already a little bit open-minded and into natural medicine and stuff like that at that time already. So I wasn't making that big deal of it, but she was making big deal of it. So it ended up creating a conflict. So I ended up going to Thailand, and it was already the early of 2020. So it was already starting. Like I could already see people wearing masks, and the lockdowns were starting as well. And yeah, I had the big dilemma of like, should I go back to Israel or should I try to stay here? Because it was just madness. Like you couldn't tell what was going to happen. I couldn't get a visa, in Thailand, so I didn't know if like what will happen if I stay here. So just by chance, I met an Israeli guy, like already in March of 2020, in one of the hotels, and he kind of suggested to me that maybe we should go back to Israel. He said like, "Oh, there's a final flight." I told him the story. I told him like I'm an escapee and all that. He said, "Yeah, maybe it's okay to better to deal with it or something like that." Um, and at that time, I was thinking, you know what? Maybe it's just better to just deal with this instead of having it in the back of my mind. Uh, it's not serving me to have this that life, still in the back of my mind, still behind me. It's better to just deal with it like straight on, right? Be a man. So yeah, I ended up taking that last flight to Israel in like late March 2020, and actually, nothing happened at the airport. I just went home. But a few months later, yeah, they do the thing where they come at the early hours of the morning, knock on your door, and basically kidnap you to jail. So they did that. My mother opened the door for them to just come in. But uh, yeah, it's a difficult situation. Obviously, it's a very disturbing situation. So I was trying to, say, oh, I don't want to go. I will jump off the window. I'll do that because I was living in an apartment building. But they're like, they're saying, oh, it's better for you to just come with us. Deal with it and stuff like that. They kind of try to coerce you to kind of consent in a way to be kidnapped. So at that time, again, didn't know about natural law or all those things. So I just said, okay, I'll just deal with it. So yeah, I let them basically kidnap me in a way, and they took me and I was processed in the military jail. And thankfully, I already had like a contact of a lawyer in case I needed it. Like the lawyer that is like expert in like dealing with this kind of situations of escapees from military stuff like that. So thankfully, yeah, my parents financed that for me. So together with the lawyer, I could get out of the jail a little bit quicker than, let's say, they wanted. They actually wanted me to return to serving and serve extra years as a penalty. They wanted me to serve like extra 4 years. It's fucking insane. So, and then when they realized I will not do that, then they wanted me to be in the jail for like 6 months. And then when they realized I keep pushing against that, they eventually only make me stay in the jail for about 1 month. But it was very harsh, and I had to go through many things. I had to basically, like act insane, right? I had to go to like the psychiatrist in the military to like say that, I have like suicidal tendencies, stuff like that, so they don't want to deal with me. And very harsh times, again, seeing like what's going on in the jail, it's the same situation of like really ridiculous operation, not professional, and commanders being abusive, all of that. And I had to stay in like the isolation, like the harshest place for like a couple of days as well. And the
Wow, that
after
is
like
pretty extreme, right? For just choosing your own freedom, from something that you didn't want to do.
yeah, yeah. And after they saw that I was kind of being rebellious, when they would bring me to court, I would be like, in handcuffs, like double handcuffs, and like tied to another soldier, and like tied in my legs as well. So I would like go like this to court, like they were wary that maybe I will escape or something. So yeah, they treat you very, very badly, and it's very inhumane
Yeah.
what's going on there. So
Humiliating, really, probably
yeah,
on
yeah,
purpose. And this was during COVID, right? So I heard that in
yeah.
Israel things were really they were pretty intense there, weren't they? In terms of lockdown?
Yeah, the propaganda is very powerful in Israel. I guess because again, Israel is country of mostly abused people, traumatized people from war, from Nazi Germany. So they kind of really believe the propaganda there. It's always like, oh, we're here to help you. We're here because we're sorry about you. You know, we want to protect you. You know, poor Jewish people that had to go through the whole Nazi Germany thing, which again, I don't deny that whatsoever. And my father, he was basically in World War II in Europe before immigrating to Israel. So he wasn't in the death camps, but he was around it, let's say, and he had to go through some harsh things as well, obviously. So I don't deny it whatsoever. But I feel like they kind of use it to control people there, like now the business, the corporations, right, the people who are malevolent in control of Israel, right, the people in control of the media, which are the same people who do the whole COVID nonsense and do all the wars and do all those things. Probably the same people who actually created Nazi Germany are the ones who actually control Israel now, right? uh,
Right,
I wouldn't
right.
I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, so they promoted COVID very strongly, and yeah, everyone believed it. And it's one of the most vaccinated countries in the world. My father also took the vaccine, and he got very sick, and unfortunately, he died about a week ago.
Oh,
So
so sorry to hear that, Theo. Yeah.
so yeah, and yeah, you know, the situation in Israel was already bad when I was there as a child, as a teenager. But after I came back, you know, traveling the world, I was like could see it even more, and I think it got even worse. It's like the culture is a very sick culture, very sick, you know, situation there. And so I kind of, in a way, I kind of wasn't that surprised that they would start like an even harsher, more disgusting war afterwards, and that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately for me, I was in Israel at that time when the October 2023 war started. I was in the city of Ashkelon near Gaza, which ended up being the most bombed city. So I was there, and I like there was like 100 over 100 rockets falling in one day. So it's like just you boom, like nonstop. It's like you don't know if you're gonna live or die. I was, you know, basically prepared to die, and
So you were
yeah, there
seeing
was
explosions and hearing all this stuff. It wasn't
there
just
was a rocket falling right below my apartment building, exploding 3 cars,
damn.
shaking the whole building. Yeah. So yeah, it was
What was
it
on
was
the
terrible.
news? What were they telling you was happening when that was happening?
So they were saying, oh, you know, those terrorists are coming in parachutes and kidnapping people and like, you know, doing rockets. There were some people that were partying at that day, and yeah, they were kidnapped. And then yeah, but the thing is, so they were saying, yeah, that we're having like a terrorist attack, but the defenses were down, so all the rockets were falling. That when they have the iron dome, so they have the iron dome, they have fucking all the best jets and tanks and fucking whatever to defend us, but they don't defend us, and they let the people get kidnapped. They let the people near Gaza also have terrorists go them, which I mean, so like when I heard that, and like I saw what's happening, I could feel, you know, being there, I could feel like something is really sketchy. Like it's it doesn't feel right. It feels it's intentional. I felt at that time already. I felt like something is intentional here. Maybe it's because I was already into Alex Jones and conspiracy theories at that time, but this was already after I learned about natural law, which we'll get to later. But um, yeah, I felt like something is really sketchy, and I knew for sure that they were not defending us. Like if it was a genuine terrorist attack, they would defend us properly, but they didn't. And it was also like a very holy day for Jewish people, where the Jewish it's like a day of like not working, not doing anything, so they kind of use that as an excuse as well. But yeah, the fact that supposedly the terrorists could infiltrate the borders and the military bases and the parachute It's like it's very ridiculous. And yeah, and I saw later that
Terrifying and re-traumatizing for anyone who was traumatized. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, it seems in purposeful incompetence, if you will. Like there's
right.
no excuse. They have all the resources, all the money in the fucking world, especially after what America is, given to them, and NATO and other, countries, nations, whatever. Yeah, it's just come on in, guys. Let's, keep this conflict, to feel the fires of war and all this shit. Just seems a little bit of the Hegelian dialectic to a degree,
For
kind
sure.
of
And again,
letting things perpetuate.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if again the same business people who created all the wars and created Israel and they are creating those conflicts as well to continue their agendas of like taking over those innocent people and taking over their land for oil. Apparently, there's oil reserves in Gaza, so it's like Jordan Maxwell says, it's all business. It's all business, but at the expense of what? Of tens of thousands of children, of birthing mothers, of innocent civilians. They just get like I heard some reports, and they just get brutalized, and that you have like evidence of sniper bullets in children's heads. It's like, how do you justify that? And so, considering like what I knew about how Israel was a very troubled place, very troubled culture, and traumatized people and all that, and like with all the COVID nonsense, the vaccines, all the transhumanist agendas in Israel, it was very big. It's a very cyber country, right? It's known as like the country of like cyber, cyber defense, and cyber attacks, and all that. The highest, let's say, the most um, education is about basically digital things and like software engineering, electrical engineering. That's like the biggest subjects of study in Israel for children, my generation, and I think also after, maybe a little before as well. So like I knew that people in Israel were very not aligned to nature at all, right? They were very living in virtual worlds and in like all the metrics of like first the Bible metrics, and then other religious metrics, and then the Israel propaganda of reason for existence and for doing the wars metrics, and then there was the COVID metrics, and then video games and all that. Like it's totally perfectly fine to play all those shooter games, but again, it's not only in Israel; it's all over the world. Kids are playing those shooting games. But like I knew some people like that go to the military to like go to be combat in the military, and they would say, "Oh, I used to play like Counter Strike, the shooter game all the time. So maybe that would help me in like being a good soldier, combat soldier, right?" Literally, people would say that those things, and so it's like when I think keep that in mind, I would think like how many those you know secondary psychopathy children who played shooting violent video games all their lives go to the military when they're 18 years old, and then their immoral commander tells them, yeah, you go sniper some kids in Gaza, and they're like, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it's sad, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of in a way what's going on, especially when I know that inside the military it's total nonsense, like total misbehavior, and like again, kids that don't want to be there, or maybe they want to be there because they're psychos. All the commanders were basically secondary or primary psychos. It's just like I like to say it's kind of like it's like a crime syndicate. It's kind of like a mafia that is running the whole place and doing wars, and they are funded by the same people who funded all the world wars, Nazi Germany, everything. So very upside down world, very self contradictory, and very very immoral.
Yeah, wow. That's intense. So you were in Israel for how long, and when did you leave there?
Yeah, so thankfully, when I was there, when the recent war started, I was already finished with all the business I had there. I already finished with military things. I finished with financial things. So when the war started, I was just thinking, okay, I'm just gonna buy the ticket, the the only ticket I can find and fly out as soon as possible, if I can stay alive. So thankfully, I stayed alive and I found a ticket to Cyprus. So I flew to Cyprus and yeah, I started a new journey of traveling basically, and ended up here in Thailand.
Wow, so these times when you've just like taken a plane, it's almost like travel bingo, or like spinning a
Yeah,
wheel and see where it lands, right? And so, did you have much with you? Like, what did you take with you on those travels? Like, was it just a
yeah,
backpack?
yeah. On this latest one, it was basically like a backpack, like a cabin baggage, basically just that. And thankfully, my mother is very supportive, so eventually she came and brought me some extra things in Europe when I was still in Europe. Um, So thankfully, yeah, my mother is supportive. If I didn't have my mother, I don't know, it would have been a lot more difficult to pull off all those things. And yeah, I'm surprised that not more people from Israel are fighting against it. It's like it seems the propaganda is so believable, somehow to the Israeli people that they just, you know, go along with all this immorality, with all this insanity. It's like I don't know where their mind is at, but it's probably not far from the gutter, and it's
Yeah,
definitely not anywhere aligned to God or natural law, not the true God of creation, with whatever their demon God. And yeah, speaking of which, like the way they interpret the Bible is definitely more like this kind of demon God, or rather than any benevolent God. Uh, like it's very far removed from natural law. What the belief system in Israel is very far removed from natural law. It's very delusional, very like ridiculous beliefs. And again, I don't want to insult any people who are believers, but if you're immoral, you have to take a look in the mirror.
so, do you think that what was the difference between you and, the average Israeli kid? That you're saying that most people there didn't think to question. They were very passive and trusting. And you had some of your own thoughts. What made the difference there from your point of view?
Well, I think I would have to like do a psychology study maybe to really give a really great answer. But yeah, it's probably the fact that the family structure I grew up in was already very messy. So I kind of grew up in already uh, everything is kind of messy in my world as a baby, as a kid. It's like it's a very like my father he had me after having his one of his not one his son died, and then my mother was separated, and so they were both. My mother and my father were like divorced, and then they came together. They didn't even marry, and they had me. And then we were living together for a while, but then they broke up, and so my sisters from my father's side, from a previous marriage, they were like not getting along with us, and from my mother's side, also like they would be jealous of me, or it was just non-stop conflict. There was not a lot of love and wholesomeness in my youth. Maybe in my early youth a little bit, but especially from teenage and on, it was just harshness non-stop. So like, of course, I was very depressed for many years and almost like pretty close to like suicidal tendencies. So like, thankfully, I had something inside of me, like you could call it like a god, even though at the time maybe I considered myself atheist. that was kind of keeping me alive. And eventually I found like plant medicine. I experimented with like psychedelics. So, and that changed my life, I think, for sure. Like, yeah, experimenting with weed and like a LSD type of psychedelic, that changed my world for sure. That kind of helped me overcome my depression and uh, my passion for life again, for seeing the beauty in life and seeing the oneness of everything. That helped a lot, um, in first off helping me recover from all the hardship of my teenage years, and then want to yeah, keep an open mind and keep going, keep being positive. So in a way I was not like deadened to all the, because many people in Israel are kind of like half dead. They're kind of like zombified a little bit. No insults, or just my observation. Um, and I was refusing to be zombified. I was refusing. Like I had this fire inside of me. It's like, no, you gotta keep going. Like, I love life. I love this world. I will not give up on it. Uh,
Huh.
so
Yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, it's just kind of like this cycle of conformity and things, and the families trying to integrate into this new country and this and that. Maybe it's third, fourth, or second, first generational, depending on, as you said, it's quite a wide variety. And from what I can deduce from your story, is kind of just growing up in a split household, or what, semantically, whatever people want to call it. It wasn't like the wholesome family unit where the parents raise the kids, and the parents expect them to just kind of go through the cycle of the education, and then with military, and what the customs are in Israel and all that stuff, and it just kind of follow the assembly line of assimilation into society type of thing. But it was a different trajectory for you kind of from the get-go.
right, I guess the negative of being in a wholesome family in a very sick society is that, yeah, you would be a lot more easily, yeah, indoctrinated and kind of yeah, believing of all the popular beliefs and culture. And yeah, the fact that I was brought up in a bit of a broken family structure was kind of put me in a place of observation rather than a confirmation, right, from the beginning. So yeah, that could be a big part of it for sure. Um, but I think there's also a divine aspect to it as well, a spiritual aspect. I think in a way I was kind of placed there to try to heal the family and heal those divides, right, in the family, and be like a peaceful man, be like a way shower. And and I'm not in any conflict with Israel. Like, sometimes I would meet Israeli people here in Thailand, and I would talk with them openly and lovingly. So I am trying to be a way shower towards peace, love, freedom, truth. So to
Beautiful.
yeah, to remove all those layers of propaganda and trauma and confusion and all that, it's maybe gonna be almost impossible work for many people in Israel nowadays when it's so extreme. But people who are maybe already also like me, or open-minded and all that, have higher awareness, maybe did some psychedelics and stuff like that, they maybe can understand me and see where I'm at, and maybe be inspired.
Yeah, for sure, it's inspiring. What part of the journey did you get introduced to Mark Passio's work on natural law?
Yeah. So I would say that again, I was always open-minded. So like back when I was still abroad before military jail, before COVID even, I was watching lots of Joe Rogan experience, and I think they had Graham Hancock at one point, and he blew my mind in regards to the whole ancient civilizations. Like the history is not what you think it is, and he was also a proponent of like psychedelics and opening your mind to everything and all that. So considering I was still atheist at that time, that kind of shook my world a little bit because he's very charming and very charismatic. So like he's like has this look of like an old scientist. He really impressed me. So I started to get into the whole rabbit hole of ancient civilizations and all that, and it really opened my mind up. And then when the COVID started, I could already see that there's something sketchy going on. So I started to research what's going on. I was being more open-minded than most people, going to even Alex Jones and things like that. And when I started watching Alex Jones, I really felt confident that it's basically bullshit and it's just a scam to perpetuate whatever control system they're trying to always perpetuate, right? Those so-called business people. So um, from that point, I was also watching other people in the same sphere. So Max Igan, and then there was at one point I was searching for Max Igan videos, and I saw one with Mark Pesio. I didn't know Mark Pesio at the time. I just wanted to watch more more Max Igan, and I was like, oh, yeah, I was watching this and like, whoa! Especially in that interview, he's like super on fire, and I was like, damn, I like this guy. I want to listen more to this guy. So yeah, I just search his name and start watching his podcasts, his everything, and it's like, whoa, okay, I'm sold. I'm into it. Natural law. That's it. That's the answer. And yeah,
That's cool. So I have to check out for about 10 minutes and you guys are going to keep this convo going. I'm sorry to step out at this time, but I'll be back.
okay.
Yeah, no worries. And that's funny because what is it? That was the same way that I learned about Mark Passio as well. Saw that. I still remember the name, Truth Bomb. Max Egan and interviews Mark Passio.
Truth
Yeah,
bomb.
it was great, yeah.
It was
And
a truth bomb for sure. It was a truth bomb. Yeah. So from that point, yeah, it's just listening, and at that time I was still going at it also from the whole fascination about ancient culture, because he also touches a lot upon ancient culture. He has a whole presentation about like his meaning of the pyramids, where he basically applies like natural law philosophy to the pyramids, like how it's like the maybe it's can be the three corners is like the body, mind, spirit, and like open the opening shacks is like doorways to like different path of spirituality, to like one path leads to ignorance going down, and one path leads to ascension or to enlightenment going up. So like he kind of gave me some answers I was looking for in other ways, like in other fascinations and curiosities. But of course, the more I was watching him, the more I realized how important the whole thing of government being slavery and uh, achieving true freedom through the teaching of this knowledge and uh, aligning your life first and foremost to natural law, doing your shadow work, truly being in the present moment, listening, um, maybe even questioning your lifestyle in regards to first off, are you being like immoral in any way? Are you working for the government in any way? And then it's like, are you eating other flesh of other animals? Are you supporting other immoral industries, corporations, businesses, whatever? Or are you truly living aligned to natural law and really having this hero's journey, this divine path that I think we're all meant to have, especially in this incarnation? Um,
yeah,
so
So with those all these uh, concepts and truths and issues going on that I mean, there's so much that the laws of the universe are always in play all the time in regards to natural law. But my question is rather looking back, before you came across Mark Passio and had that defining term of natural law. You might have heard being spoken under a different term, or learn different aspects of it from other sources. And I'm kind of curious what those could be.
Mm, yeah. Other sources, yeah, of course. I started getting into other people in the One Great Work network after finding out about Mark Passio being passionate.
I'm talking about before. I said.
Before. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's mostly like Graham Hancock and Joe Rogan and people like that.
But what were they saying in regards to natural law? Looking back.
So they were not directly referring to natural law, but especially Graham Hancock, I guess, were hinting towards something spiritual rather than everything being material, right? Like because the whole popular culture is about everything is material, and like atheism is like the most popular thing right now, solipsism. So I was still in that kind of solipsistic, atheistic mindset. So listening to Graham Hancock, bringing things to spirituality and to the possibility of ancient civilizations and maybe even ancient aliens and maybe even spiritual beings and like taking ayahuasca and speaking to plant spirits and the earth spirit and Gaia and Terra and all that, right? And like the connectedness of everything, the synchronicities. That's what opened me up to receiving natural law, I would say,
Yeah,
eventually.
no.
And also the COVID nonsense and being open to the whole so-called conspiracies regarding it, which I think are a lot closer to the truth than whatever was on the media at the time, or still is in the so-called history. I think that was the second thing that really prepared me to accept and receive natural law.
Yeah, great points. And yeah, to be honest, I learned about Graham Hancock through the series of Ancient Aliens, actually, and that really opened up my mind, tenfold, especially in my early 20s, of just being extremely humbled as to like thinking back on our ancient ancestors and all that, and not really worried about if their whole theory on like, oh, was it the aliens that made the pyramids and whatever the fuck? It wasn't really. I mean, yeah, I wanted to know yes or no for sure, and that was a catalyst for me to dig down deeper. But just you know, the archaeological aspects of certain things as well, and but that could be traced back to um,
As to what?
just yeah, like Mesoamerican time and other. There's a direct human link to these things that can be verifiable. Like, isn't it baffling that they were more connected to the universe and the constellations and all this stuff than like we are today and all that jazz? So, yeah, that was already mind blowing, and it has that natural law, universal law component to it. So, yeah, it's kind of these things set the primer, and that's what I mean by like a lot of people know about natural law, yet not under those terms, and not the whole encompassing issues revolving around the whole thing to really be in alignment with it in that regards. Yeah, standing up against tyranny and violations upon yourself, knowing your rights and all that jazz. And Yeah, Graham Hancock expressed flashes of that, with the marijuana prohibition and all that, and I actually sampled some of his stuff in my mixes too. Actually, regarding that, by the way. Yeah.
People do have preformed views which are not based on their own experience, but simply what they've heard on the news media, and they haven't really paused to sit down and analyze these views properly. It's a sign of the madness and the criminal violence of our society that it dictates whether or not we may experience the healing effects of this plant. It is an extraordinary thing to call the consumption of marijuana a crime. It is a victimless crime, if it's a crime at all.
I bet you, when you really came to deeply understand natural law, it gave you a deeper understanding of all the chaos that, you were raised with, and the life in Israel and the military. A lot of light bulbs went off.
That's a great question.
Yeah. It's triggered a lot of shadow work for sure, and which I feel like even the word shadow work is kind of like a bit of an intimidating term. You just call it trauma healing.
Yes, I agree. For my field, that's more accurate. Yeah. Did you
Right.
go through a period of anger or, rage, or, what were the emotional experiences you had as you unfolded your awareness of natural law?
I mean, it's quite a few things. Yeah, it's and actually we were just joking that like we were having a little smoke break, and also you mentioned that Graham Hancock is also a proponent of marijuana. He was trying to promote legalizing cannabis when it was still a little more taboo and a little more illegalized than it is today. Thankfully, it's already a lot more liberal in regards to that now, and even here in Thailand, it's already legal. You can buy it in stores, no problem. So definitely, actually, so I touched upon the fact that when I was still a teenager, late teenage, I was experimenting with marijuana and psychedelics, and that helped me a lot in recovering from serious depression and all that. And then after the whole COVID thing, I was getting into smoking it again, and I think that is also a big part of doing shadow work and healing yourself. Is weed, is cannabis. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't need to like explain these days that marijuana is also medical, right? There's medical marijuana, and for me, getting into it, I would say at first it was like a hit or miss. Like sometimes it would get me to places of freaking out or paranoia, and that's probably related to all the trauma and shadow I was carrying with me. So it's probably had me facing those things, and so I had to process them. I had to process what was being suppressed. It kind of pushes things forward, pushes things up from the depths of your spirit, of yourself, your mind, and forces you to deal with them. So for me, it was like a very interesting journey to, uh, correspond with this plant spirit of cannabis. But it definitely was a very, very big part of my healing. Like, I think I would have not reached the same level of healing and open-mindedness and growth without using this amazing plant. So yeah, I would say that's the one. It's using cannabis as a way to heal yourself, as a way to just like people with PTSD use it. Exactly, you use it to heal those stresses, those traumas, which is not a miracle cure. It's not just you smoke a joint and you're good and you're happy. Maybe you'll freak out. Maybe you'll have paranoia. Maybe you'll call the hospital, right? To call an ambulance. Maybe I don't know. You'll go a little crazy for a few days or something. All those things I had to go through which were very, very uncomfortable. But that's what healing is. I mean, like when you do ayahuasca, it's always about you first vomit, you first have like you kind of go through a little bit of a death, right? There's a little bit of a death there. um, it's a lot about killing the ego in a way, like, or like not being in the ego, but being more in the soul, being more in the all, in the feeling like you truly are a part of nature and part of everyone else's life. You're not just your own life. That's one thing about atheism and solipsism, is just everything is about me. It's basically like Satan. It's basically egoism. And I was deep into that, just like most people are, fortunately, these days. So to get out of that, maybe a way to accelerate your way out of those shadowy places is to also heal yourself with not just plant medicine like cannabis, but also a healthier lifestyle. Going and grounding yourself in nature. Maybe even hugging a tree. Don't need to be shy about that. Just feel yourself really as part of this amazing, beautiful place, home for us, this planet. It's this is our home during this life. And are you gonna dirty your home and destroy it and like spit on it or whatever, or are you gonna treat it with love and hug it and lay on it, sleep on it, sleep with it? Like lay down, maybe maybe go lay down on the beach, just feel the sun hit your skin and the waves, hear the waves coming in and out, and maybe it will help you as well to reconnect to the great everything, to the great all that is this beautiful experience we call life, we call being human on earth. So that's a big, very big part. And then realizing what is your purpose. So okay, now you're happy, you're in bliss, let's say. uh, you're no longer depressed, you're no longer solipsistic. Very good. All right, that's a very big step forward. So what's next? It's like, okay, now you need a purpose. Like, why are you here, right? So the purpose is, I think, helping everyone reach this level of understanding of, first off, that we are all connected and we affect each other directly. We are here together. We're not here in isolation. We're not wearing astronaut suits or whatever. We're not getting fed with tubes. We're all eating from the same plants, from the same trees, from the same plates, even if it's families. So treat your family with respect. Treat other people. Treat your neighbors with respect. Treat them as another you. Also, like Max Siegel says, like in Lakesh, I'm another you. And then also teach them about why it is important to do the great work, why we call it the one great work, because this is the one great work for all of humanity, is to help people understand this philosophy, which means just the love of wisdom, to understand, to help everyone understand this wisdom that has been propagated through many generations of people who have this true care, what we call true care, the generative principle of having a true care for all of humanity, to really know that your soul, your heart will be weighed in the scales of Ma'at, as you like to say, Derek. So I mean, even in Jewish spirituality, they talk about that. Yeah, there is the judgment day when you die and all that. So that's also very mind blowing as to why they're so immoral. Like even because considering they have that as part of Jewish spirituality, is the idea of Ma'at. Basically, I think it was derived from ancient Egypt. So it's to reconnect with the teachings of ancient Egypt, to understand what they were trying to teach each other, what they were practicing, and we already have a very big evidence that they are the greatest civilization on the earth. I mean, they have the biggest and longest standing architecture, right? Pyramid, the objects, whatever, and everything seemed to have been made out of gold, and there's so much great, beautiful art in ancient Egypt. Kemet,
Deep,
right?
deep symbolism and symbology, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's extremely fascinating. I was listening to a lot of Nate Cap, Cubby Hall, Douglas Martin, and they dive into it. I really recommend cubbyhole.com if you're fascinated by that as well, by ancient Egypt symbolism and philosophy. It's very, very fascinating, and it's all tied to natural law. Ma'at, their goddess, is basically the goddess of natural law. It's not about anything else but aligning yourself to morality.
Yeah.
We featured them on our website, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they are on netilaw.com.
I wanted just to reflect, the way that cannabis helped you through this awakening experience, both where, lots of difficult emotions arose. You mentioned, a lot of, because the awakening experience is like, what I mean by that is seeing the truth of what's really going on, and recognizing, as you understand the principles of natural law, and then you see how they're being violated, used, manipulated for evil instead of allowing the positive outcomes, of harmony. It's very mind blowing. It's very, very upsetting for most people, to grasp, and so I think when you're describing about how cannabis was helpful to you, it kind of made me think of, it's like this earth embrace, this earth love, that you get to be held by, in a sense, as your mind's being, your intellect is getting blown open, with this harsh reality. It brings a certain softness, a certain natural love, in a sense, is kind of what I would describe that. Because I think it is very harsh for people just to be fully raw in that intellectual devastation, which then ripples down into your whole sense of who you are, what you've done, what you thought was right or true, or and based your life on, right? And you start to see all the devastation and the wounding of people and animals. It's very hard to sit with that, right? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and if you're remaining immoral but still getting high, the marijuana spirit will bitch slap you. I tell you, you, you don't want to experience that. Yeah, it will teach you some lessons. It's really, maybe it sounds a little woo-woo for some people, but I'm telling you, I was like a total scientism, atheism guy, and I'm telling you, there is definitely plant spirits, and marijuana is a very, very powerful motherly spirit. Maybe she is mad. I don't know. Yeah, definitely reconnecting with your roots. So literally the roots, the earth, and also the roots, your ancestry, all the way back to ancient Egypt, and maybe even before that. There's also a big spirituality going on in the natural community of like Germanic. Like, I mean, Derek talked about yesterday. Like, I think Benjamin um, was Belderson. He talks about. You had interview with him, Leslie, recently. He talks about the Germanic one, and it's also related to what Ceticus is talking about. He's kind of tying it all together. He's like tying Kemet to Odinism and all those things. So I think that's a very untapped field of study that people should look into, because I don't know what the scientism people are into those days. I guess it's all about the whole virus minutia and all those things. They're kind of in the loop there, but maybe it's a good idea for scientists to start diving into those fields of, yeah, ancient mysticism and ancient civilizations, ancient symbolism, and the roots of all of our ancestors. I guess many of them say, "Oh, we already know everything." It's like, maybe remember what science means. It means to question everything. It means to all never stop learning about nature, about the world. So yeah, if you're saying you already know, then you're lying to yourself that you're a scientist. You're not a scientist. You're dogma. How to say?
Religionist.
Right. You're a dogmatic religionist. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Academia is extremely rigid, unfortunately, and that's one of the issues that has a lot of the polarization with a lot of the scientism and whatever sprouts from that. Mask, no mask. Jab, no jab, and blah, fucking blah. Like sometimes, too much rather. You're gonna say?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this importance of asking questions. You mentioned that was one of the strengths you had as a child, really, was asking questions. And I think that the openness to keep asking questions is essential, right? To discover anything, discover the truth, to know how things work, how to solve a problem. And I think that this whole idea of the scientific method, right, has been separated from the average person. And there's like this idea that you have to be a scientist and you have to have a degree and you have to have a lab and a lab coat and everything's sterilized and all this whatever belief about that's the only thing science is. And truly, I mean, there are aspects of science that are done in a lab and very specific, right? But there doesn't have to be a separation between this idea of scientific learning or study. An average person, every person can develop the spirit of a scientist and use a scientific method and observe and record and control for variables and watch things over time. You can do experiments with yourself. You can do it with the way you eat and the way you move your body. You can do social experiments. So this isn't something that should be so like far away from the average person. All people, if we open up our minds with questions and using the trivium process of gathering information and then processing that information in logical ways and creative ways, we can then come to conclusions whereby then we can have rhetoric, we can speak. Now that doesn't mean that you just because you have rhetoric that you know everything, right? Because we're here, we're talking, we're sharing what we know, but we're still learning. We're still students of the trivium. We're learning through teaching. We're continuing to observe and look for patterns in ourselves and in the world, right? It's so I just wanted to like demystify that whole idea, even of science. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You said it. What can I say? Other than that, it's definitely we're all meant to be scientists. We're all born. All children are born scientists. They always question everything. What is this? Why? What? How? It's like it's kind of like it's being suppressed with when they get indoctrinated into the system and like they get scolded by teachers. Like, oh, don't ask too many questions. Like, no, it's like we're born like this for a reason. It's like maybe we're meant to be scientists. Maybe we are this like little gods, part of this mind of God that is observing itself, right? And want to learn like what is this incredible creation that I created, right? As God and as a little God, like as a lowercase creator as opposed to the big case creator, right? So it's something we all should reconnect into. We should reconnect to the beautiful part of being a child, of being curious, of being wondrous, and accepting and loving, right, and caring and everything. It's all those things that are being suppressed by those fucking businessmen, those immoral businessmen who want us just zombified and enslaved. Maybe we should discard those things. It's we have the power. People forget that they have the power to discard all of those matrices, right?
Yes.
They are divine beings. We are all divine beings. No one can take that away from you. Not your teacher, not your mother, not your father, not your king, not your president, not anyone. You are your own king. Your body is your temple. Your body is your kingdom. Your mind is the king of your body. So we decide what we want, and what all of us want truly deep inside is just peace. It's love, it's freedom, and obviously it's truth. That's what binds everything together. The universe, God, is truth. So it's just ways to express this one thing that is unfortunately missing for some reason, but it's the one thing that is everything. And we're all part of this creation, as I said. So instead of being a cog in the machine of other people's creations, especially immoral people who are not aligned to those things, who are trying to create perversion upon this creation because their own sickness and their own unresolved trauma and all those things, you can create a beautiful reality that is aligned with morality, that is aligned with natural law. So that's what I think we're all trying to create as part of the great work and as part of those communities. So that's like Mark Bessio says, that's the true spirituality. That's not the new age bullshit or whatever bullshit. It's just the truth. That's the true way. Also kind of like can be tied to the Taoism. It's like the way. This is the way for all of us.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, well said. Yeah. Yeah. So, anything else that you want to share with us tonight, Theo? We gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, do your self-reflection. You know, like question your own beliefs, question yourself first, take a good look in the mirror. I know it's hard to even hear me say that. Maybe some of you might get angry or some of this, but know that you are the master of your existence. So like if I can make you angry or can make you offended, you need to check with yourself why I can make you angry or offended, because I'm not your master, you are your master. So do your self-reflection, really understand the concepts we're trying to convey, what it means to align with morality, what it means to be a true spiritual person, to be truly have a true purpose in your life, and do the work slowly. Take it slow. It's not gonna be in one day. It's not gonna be maybe even in 1 year. Maybe for some people it can be even more than 10 years. But as long as every day you're chipping at it, eventually you will have a beautiful statue that is your true self, and you know, and you can embody it, and you can live comfortably in it and not be afraid of anything. Fear is the destruction of freedom. Fear is the mind killer. So instead of being in fear, be in the opposite, be in love. Love yourself, love the world, even love those evil businessmen, because hating them will not serve you. Know thyself, to love thyself, to love others. I think that's a good concept to consider at the very least. I know some people maybe can have different opinions in regards to that. Maybe like you can have a sacred anger, but I feel a sacred anger is also coming from love. It's like tough love. So you should have tough love for those evil people, and have soft love for your neighbors and your families and your people you're in relationship with, and of course your community members. And please join us in the great work.
Yeah.
You know, do what we do. Like I'm just a young guy. You know, I was not even imagining I would do anything like this just 2 years ago, but here I am, already part of this incredible channel called Dissolving the Divide. It's like, wow, how did I get here? So you can do it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's like be brave, just like hop on the plane, right? Say no to this, the despicable experience, that you wake up in, right? And be brave and go get on a plane, get somewhere else so that you can like figure this shit out.
Right, be brave. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when they ask people what do you regret the most when people are in their deathbeds, right? And they get questioned like what do you regret the most? Is it the things you did or is it the things you didn't do? And pretty much more high percent of them say, yeah, I regret what I didn't do, the people I didn't show love to, the opportunities I didn't engage with, and they regret all the immoral things they did. They kind of realize that love is the most important thing in the world. It's the most important thing in this life. It's to love others, to love yourself, to be a loving being. We are all meant to be a loving being. I also like to say that God is love. God is truth, which is love, right? Truth, love, freedom. As Mark Passio puts it, it's all connected. This is the trinity of alignment. True alignment is and a true spirituality, true religion, being tied to the true God of creation. Right? Relegare to tie back. It can be interpreted in a negative way and also a positive way. So the positive way is to tie yourself to truth. So if you're a religionist, you can stay a religionist. Just make sure you're aligned to the right religion.
So you make music, right? So share a little about the music you create, and how that is been for you, the impact on you of your music.
Thank you. Yeah, my label is called Love Forever, which thank you. It's very synchronistic of you to mention it now when I talk about love, because I feel like that's a way to kind of put that philosophy out there. It's like love forever. Love is forever. Love is eternity. We're all love beings, and I think that's something I wanted to really put forward with my art. So when I realized I have a little talent in making electronic music, I wanted to also tie it to my philosophy. So I called it Love Forever. So I have a Bandcamp page where you can check out my music. It's like, let's say it's more like chill out electronic house music. I don't know if Leslie you checked out my album, but it's
I listened to some of it. I didn't like get through the whole thing, but I did like go through it and got the feel for it. It was beautiful. Yeah.
thank you. It's like very imaginative. It's like left field a little bit. It's I'm not trying to be anything mainstream like those mainstream electronic music that you would hear in the clubs. I'm trying to maybe have some aspects of that, the catchiness of that, but also mix in some like abstract synths and like dreamy sound fields that you can just close your eyes, listen with headphones, and like be taken to other places to get on that plane and fly away. So it's very much about that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, perfect. That's kind of what I wanted to say as well, because you can blaze it up and get sky high too, and ride that plane. And you're an abstract cat like myself, and it's not about escapism, but more, and it's not escaping from reality. It's kind of like not even escaping, but entering into the inner sanctum. And what I notice, with my life of smoking weed is that it's been quite the amplifier of the inner thought process, the self-talk, and self-reflection, and all these things. And people aren't careful with that. It can go south, and also it could just be ignored as well. People can just tune it off, tune it out eventually, and just turn their TV on, whatever that they want to avoid, and that's really easy for a lot of people, which is what a lot of people do because they see it more of like a recreational thing. That's not what we're talking about, and I'm sure a lot of people caught that in context. But just to reiterate that, so
And doing the great work itself, I think, is a form of art. Like teaching natural law to others. Like I've been practicing this, like with people, tourists I meet here in Thailand sometimes, and it's a form of art to find a way to do it effectively and in a way that is truly loving and beneficial, that makes people feel good and not feel like they're being like preached on or anything like that. It's a form of art to really teach that. I feel like teaching it can be really seen as a form of art. I mean, this whole creation is art. I feel like, so we're all artists. We're all creating. So every moment you are an artist already. You are a creator already. So like every moment is your choice what you create in this reality field. So hopefully you would choose to create something beautiful for all of us.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be videos. It doesn't even have to be, the wonderful website that you set up. And that was a setup for you to just mention that real quick. I will be doing a video with you to really go over it in depth in the future. But yeah, to let folks know what's good with that, brother man.
Yeah, real quick. When I contacted you about 6 months ago, I suggested we start a website together. When I heard you talk about that Neti Law, I was like, oh, that's a really cool name for a website, maybe. So I already had some expertise in regards to making websites, programming. So I was like, okay, I can help you set it up. And you were like, cool, let's do it. So we did it. We did it together. You sent me all the images and GIFs and all those cool things that you like to put in your music videos and stuff like that. And I just kind of incorporated it into a website form and put many good information about natural law and all the things that I was studying at the time and all the things I thought were really important for people who are starting out to maybe read and get into, and make it like flashy and make it like attractive and colorful. So maybe younger people can get into it a little bit more. So yeah, I was sourcing information from many websites. Of course, everything was checked by you, Derek, and so we have a section about learning. So it goes into the Hermetica, the Trivium, the Tarot, also Marpesio's work of natural law as the law of freedom and government is slavery. Then there is green language, and finally shamanism. So that's the learning aspect of it. And Taoism, almost forgot, Taoism with Corey Andrulet. Yes, that's the website. Loud indeed. And we also have a section for music because, like we just mentioned, music is a big part of our passion, and it's also a big part of creation itself. So we have a section for music. So there's a big part where Derek lists all his favorite hip hop albums, and we feature some artists and musicians we like that are aligned to natural law.
It's not my favorite. It's just music that's aligned to natural law, and I picked a top 10 list of albums that I'm aware of that are as aligned to natural law as I can arguably say or call it. I guess, yeah.
These graphics are beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful. Very like moving art. It's gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what I was going for, and I just also saw it like a work of art. So, like I just mentioned, doing the great work is a work of art. See it that way, and maybe you will feel inspired, hopefully, and you will feel how it benefits you. You will feel how when you do something that is aligned to natural law and to teaching it, you feel really good about it. It gives you almost like a natural high, and not a high you can get with any weed strain. It's much better than any high you will get with any weed strain. It's like the universe itself like giving you a thumbs up.
It looks like SIM card is used up.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Derek
I'm here.
froze.
Hello?
Really?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, maybe it's me.
Oh.
Oh, maybe you just got frozen for a moment.
Yeah, I might have gotten frozen. Says my
Okay.
connection was lost. Huh. Okay.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We'll be gone in a second.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your sharing your story and all the insights around it, because it is a pretty amazing life story. And you're so young yet. Let's hope peace and harmony and joy is all your future, right? We're
Yeah,
maybe,
it's all of our future.
yeah, I know. We may be in for some wild rides, but
Yeah,
I think
totally.
the more that we stay unified around natural law principles and stay connected to people who understand natural law, that we have our own type of, divine protection or connection in some way. We don't need to be afraid.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, final thing I'll mention is that when you are aligned to natural law, not only you will get those thumbs ups from the universe, you will also feel really that you are on this Tao, on this way, on this like divine way, divine path, and that the road will be paved the way for you. You will suddenly meet the right people. You suddenly have the right opportunities. Suddenly, yeah, have the right things manifest that you just need just at the time you need them. So if you're struggling in any way, if you're in any dark place, really consider aligning yourself with natural law as not just a work of art, not just a way to do a great work or anything like that, but just a way to heal yourself, to bring yourself to a life that you enjoy living, because it's very much about that as well.
Yeah.
It's the all-encompassing solution to all of our problems. I truly feel that way.
Yeah, I can relate to that. What you just said, I think it's true. Those synchronicities and start unfolding in front of you. You get places you never thought you would. It's pretty cool.
It's a correct way of life. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, meeting you guys has been part of my joy of studying natural law. So I'm glad to be here with you guys. Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Theo. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the Europa Law group and in the chats and hanging out with Endevil and around.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you.
All of the listeners, you can join us. We're on an open community. You got Europa Natural Law. You got One Great Work Warriors. You got One Great Work Network with Mark Passio himself. Please join us. You're all welcome.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a wonderful day.
For in the infinite will, the entire purpose of life is sustained by this law. This law is the instrument of that will, the law itself being the immediate vehicle of the divine purpose.
This is not a religion. This is not some new age mumbo jumbo. This is a science. It is a science that constitutes knowledge of how laws that are existent, in operation, and immutable in this universe work, and how we are creating what we experience in conjunction with these operating laws. And man didn't put them into effect. Whatever created this universe put them into effect. I'm not here today to tell you what that is. Your job in your own personal experience is to get in touch with what you feel that is. I'm not here to tell you what that is. I'm not here to tell anybody what that is. But my whole point is, it created these laws, and they're in effect. And if you want to stop suffering, and if you want the human condition to change, you have to understand how these laws work. There is no way around that. Knowledge of these laws is required. And this is what people in the so-called New Age movement and in religious communities and in other communities don't want to acknowledge.
The force that governs it all. Natural law. Justice. The king on his throne.